What is the scariest story you know that is 100% true? I am 20-year-old male and live a very eventfully unlucky life. This is one of the many scary events that happened in my lifetime. Short version, I may have been targeted by a possible serial killer. Long version, I attend a uni outside my city and therefore I rent a student accommodation throughout the year. The contract for my accommodation ends before my last exam, which would be on the following week. I thought to myself I could go to the uni library, usually 24/7, the night before and spent an all-nighter. Irresponsible, but last-minute revision is my savior. I get to the library at around midnight. I see that it is closed for emergency maintenance. I'm unsure of what happened, but at this point my plan is screwed and I'm thinking the best thing to do is to book a hotel and just study there. All the hotels around seem to way too pricey and I notice there's a hotel that's pretty cheap for the night. I walk for about 30 minutes on this long, dark, silent road. At this point I'm scared and notice a light at the end of the street being my hotel. I think to myself, finally. At least I'll be safer in there. Spoilers, I was not. I go into this old Victorian-like building and notice no one is at the reception. I ring the bell a couple of times until I see a tall, strange-looking man staring at me from the top of the stairs. I ask if he works there. He tells me he doesn't and is just another customer. He then proceeds to ask me a lot of personal questions. I answer truthfully but in a very vague manner. He then proceeds back up the stairs where I hear loud bangs followed by shouting. The reception staff then comes back to the reception and I end up booking the room. As I go upstairs I hear knocking on the door next to mine followed by some shouting. I hear a few more knocks, then I get a knock on my door. I open the door to see the strange man from before. He asks me if I'm alone and I tell him that I have a friend coming over in 5 minutes. I did not. He then asks if he could come in and I refuse. This then prompts him to try to force his way into the room, which I resist and close the door on him. There were about 10 minutes of peace before more knocking on my door. At this point I'm watching a YouTube video on my phone with a bit of talking and not much background noise. Straight after the knock I hear footsteps going to another room knocking. I assume the man thought that the voice from the YouTube video was my visiting friend, making him hesitate and target the door next to mine. There were seconds of silence followed by large banging and the walls shaking. I was about to ***** myself at this point. I hear screaming and shouting. I later find out that the weirdo was, possibly, serial killer who was hiding knives and machetes, intending to kill someone that night. He broke down the door of the person next door and tried to kill the person staying there. The police came shortly after and took down statements and information. To my knowledge the individual ran away. I do not know whether he got caught. He was in fact a prime suspect for a previous murder and since then I have never gone for a cheaper hotel, no matter the alternative distance or price. Edit. The information regarding him being a serial killer was given to me by the guy next door who returned to the police station a few times and claims he was informed that the individual was a prime suspect for a few incidents that happened some time before this event. Edit 2. I was scared, but being 19 at the time I did not know whether that calling the police was the correct decision in that scenario as at the time I assumed the issue was resolved, though I later found out that it clearly wasn't. The person next door did end up calling the police and they questioned everyone on that floor and took down everyone's details. Edit 3. People are also wondering why I started watching a YouTube video 10 minutes later. Though it was not to deter the guy, it did work in my favor in that situation. I was actually trying to calm myself down as I was hoping to get back to studying for my exam, which was literally hours away. At this point I assumed that the situation was resolved. I wanted to leave the hotel, but I was scared to leave the room. Though old, I did not think the doors were so fragile to be broken down so easily and I was not aware that he was hiding knives. Edit 4. I also don't know how the guy next door was able to avoid getting hurt when his door got broken down by a guy wielding a knife, but he was totally fine. He was a little shaken, but seemed to calm down once the police arrived. Edit 5. Some people here don't believe the story and want evidence. I can try contacting the police and getting an update, report, or something, but I don't know how likely it is that I'll be able to get something.